Right, I am here with Bethman. I'm so excited today. We are going to talk about balanced body Pilates training, as well as just really trying to help provide a roadmap slash explain what you should be looking for when you are looking at a Pilates training, as far as a training that you would be looking for to do in order to become a Pilates teacher. Just like yoga, just like so many other formats, there are a lot of different options out there. And Beth has had several experiences with certifications in her career, as well as having experience teaching in the industry for so long and becoming a master instructor herself through Balanced Body, that I felt like she was a great expert to have on today for our live interview series on my YouTube channel. So my name is Stacey Alden. If we haven't met yet, welcome to my channel. And I'm going to introduce Beth before I ask her 3 quick questions about Pilates certifications. So welcome, Beth. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So Beth is a Balanced Body master teacher, as I mentioned. She has completed 3 Pilates teacher training certifications or instructor certifications. And she has been teaching since 1999. She initially studied with Melinda Bonehart. Is that correctly?
Bonart.
Is it Bonart? Bonart.
Yeah.
Bonart Bryan, master teacher and physical therapist. And then she went on to work for Mari Windsor, who popularized Pilates. Beth also studied and certified with Gail Anderson of Balance Within, and is certified in the PMA, or the Pilates Method Alliance, for any of you who may not know what that is. It's the largest international Pilates professional organization for teachers. And that's also something you'll want to look for. I have yet to see a certification out there that isn't PMA accredited, but we might as well start with that. Throw that out there, that's an important.
There are definitely some.
Oh, there are.
Yes, there are.
Wow.
So the PMA has been around a while, and it's a nonprofit organization, and they set out to be an umbrella organization for the Pilates industry and try to set some standards. They have an exam for Pilates teachers, which is just a pen and paper exam. It's 100 questions. It's not an easy exam. So that is the way they test. They have been unable to get, it's very hard with they are an international organization, to get testing in all the different places around the world. But they do certify schools, which is something they've been doing for the last couple of years, which is really nice. So if you're looking for a Pilates teacher training, you would look first at the PMA, the Pilates Method Alignment and Association, and see if that is listed. Because that's just a baseline to go by. There's a lot of people who do certifying. Some people do weekend certifying. I mean, basically, you can't learn too much in a 2-day program, right? Even if it's just mat. There's a lot to learn. Most of the decent programs, there are a lot of bigger ones, the bigger players in the industry, somewhere from mid 500 hours to some even go up to 700. So anywhere in that, and that's comprehensive training. So that would includes the mat. There's 3 mats in Balanced Body: mat 1, mat 2, and also mat 3. You have, for the Balanced Body training, we have an introduction, which is called Movement Principles, and it really gets into the basic of anatomy, how the body works, how the core works, how the transversus works, and all the fascia lines in the body. And it's really useful information that you can always go back to. And it used to be part of mat 1, but they've separated it out, so it's 2 days, and that's before you would do mat 1, right? Different certifications don't have that. They kind of mix it in with the mat. So you could get certified with a mat 1 certification if you want, or just all the way through mat. You can also get certified with mat and reformer. And then you can do the whole comprehensive, which is all the mat, the reformer, the ladder barrel, and all the barrels, the chairs, the Cadillac or trapeze table, the whole Pilates system together. And that's where you get into the like 550 to almost 700 hours. So that's pretty comprehensive. Again, if you don't want to take the whole one, you can do just a mat. In balanced body, you would have to do the principles first, the movement principles, because that's the basis of the technique. Now, if you want to go further in balanced body after mat, you would have to take or have an equivalent of a college level anatomy course. So you don't need it for mat, but you would need it as you go into reformer before you test out for reformer and all the way through. We offer our own training with one of our master teachers, Deborah Kenner, who was a professional ballet dancer and has a master's in kinesthesiology and going on to her PhD. She does the anatomy in clay, which is Balanced Body came out with. It's been done before in New York, and they found, so basically you get a little skeleton and you go through with the teacher with the clay, rolling and making the muscles and layering the muscles one over the other. And they found that working with your hands rather than looking at a diagram really sits better in your brain. So it's really a good way. They can be broken up into segments: shoulder, hip, leg, or it can be done in 2 full days. You don't have to take that anatomy. There are online anatomy courses that are approved. So that's just kind of a general. You should be looking for those amount of hours if you're looking for a comprehensive certification. All right, if you're looking for individual certification for mat, those are going to be less.
Yeah, and as Beth mentioned, we tend to be more partial to Balanced Body because we have chosen them to be our entity, I guess, that we work with. But if you were to say blanket statement in the industry, if they're, like you said, looking for the PMA first, that's the initial thing they want to see. And then how many hours total?
Around 550 to max 700. All right, and that includes the training. It also includes observation hours of you coming into the studio and watching people teach, watching master teachers teach, or doing some approved videos. So I wouldn't just go on and look at anybody, because you find a lot of wild things in this industry that may not be applicable or may not be safe. So that you have the observation, and then you have student teaching hours, which is really important because that's how you hone your craft. Really working with people, teaching them the material, you learn, you get to look at bodies, you get to see misalignments, and that's really, really important to train your eye. And you will train your eye as you teach more and really figure out how to solve certain problems for people. So that's also very important. So the teacher hours, the in studio hours, and your observation hours. Now
and on that note, sorry. Now that note that you had mentioned, just the different types of hours, you had mentioned the ability to be critically thinking about what your client needs. That's something that you and I both appreciate, is something that Balanced Body as a training encourages. Is that the case for every training, or is that something you should look for?
I've seen, you can't judge a training by 1 or 2 or even 3 participants. So let's say that as a blanket statement. But a lot of times people come out of a training and they're teaching, and you watch them audition and they say, okay, the legs need to be 45-degree angle here. And clearly the person is having trouble with that, and they keep saying 45-degree angle. So I ask, why does it have to be a 45-degree angle? And they're like, I don't know, that's what I was taught. So that doesn't show that you really understand and know the exercise. We're not trying to teach robots. We're trying to teach thinking critical teachers. So if you could take the legs lower, what would that mean? That mean they'd have to have more core stability so that they wouldn't arch. If they don't have that much core stability or leg strength, they could take the legs higher, so maybe 65 degrees or something like that. So not everything is set in stone, because we are humans and we don't come out of a plastic mold. And we all have different bodies and different abilities. So this is
I love that.
you need to learn to teach, both progressions for people who are getting stronger and how to progress them slowly and carefully, and also regressions. How do you get a person prepared to do an exercise by doing a partial exercise or modifying the exercise? So those things are really important to learn. You understand why you're doing an exercise and how you can change it to fit the body in front of you.
I love that. So we have looking for PMA, we've covered the hours, at least 500 to 700, love that. Being able to critically think as an instructor, having the ability to critically think as an instructor, and the freedom to critically think, not being told a certain series of exercises is required, or like you said, we're not robots. I love that.
Right.
And then what you mentioned, a couple other components, there should be an anatomy component in the training. Do you agree with that?
There
Do you think?
should be. Not everyone has it. I think the balanced body is really comprehensive. They want you to have a full understanding of the, really, you have to know something about the body, a little more than just basic anatomy in order to teach, so you can understand what happens when your hip goes forward, what happens to the sacrum, what's the movement of the bones and the movement of the other tissues. You don't have to go into surgery and know everything in that depth.
Exactly.
You need to know some depth, and as you work more, you get to learn more, and it really does help your teaching.
And that's the thing Beth and I had discussed before, was that just because you obtain that certification doesn't mean you're done learning, right?
It's the beginning of the learning. So one other thing to look for in a training is continuing education. So Balanced Body and several of the others do have a requirement for 16 CEUs after 2 years of getting your certification. So you would do that every 2 years. There are numerous places to take that. Balanced Body is basically one of the only ones that allows you to take training from other styles. So as long as they offer CEUs that are approved by the PMA and Balanced Body, rather, then it's okay, which is nice, because you don't want to have your training. A lot of training, especially in the past, has been, this is the right training. Anybody else who does anything else, who veers from this, is wrong. They're not true to Pilates, or else they're not true to this training. So this gives you an open mind. Look around, try some other trainings, come back to Balanced Body. They offer great trainings. Pilates on Tour. The PMA is a big tent. They have people from every kind of Pilates training. So it's good to see what other techniques can do and not be completely married to yours. You might come back and say, I really like this training the best. I think it's very thoughtful and well planned, and still having some connection to the basic flow of Joe Pilates' work, which is 100 years ago. But let's face it, we've learned some different things about anatomy and movement in the last 100 years, and let's reflect them in our teaching.
Exactly. I love that. And then my last question for you today is, just as far as we've covered what really are the main ingredients of a good training. However, what are some things that certain trainings might do that would be helpful for you to maybe ask ahead of time, such as studio time or practice hours or practice clients? What are some questions to ask when you're looking for that studio?
When you're looking for a studio, if it's a studio, a one-person studio, or a very small studio, you may not have that much access to the equipment. All right, so first you want to ask, how much access do I have to one of the master teachers? So I'm full-time here, and Deborah is available, so you can come in, make an appointment, just come in the office and say, I'm confused about this, or I don't understand this, or make an appointment, let's go over this, or take a session with the person to go over some things that you're concerned about. So that's a very important ability to have access to the master teacher. If they can't answer your questions, they will get answer to your questions. Most of the time, they definitely can. You also want to have access to the equipment, okay? So when you're doing mat, you don't need that much access, but you might need the props And the Balanced Body has a whole section on props, which is about 5 different props and how to use them, what's the benefit of one prop over another for certain exercises. So you'd have that. You'd also have, when you get to your training on the equipment, on the reformer, the barrel, any of the other chairs, you have access to the studio. We might suggest certain hours so that it's not at our peak hours. And we also provide people for you to work with, not clients from the studio or the club, because we don't want you to work on somebody without any kind of liability and you don't have your certification. But we'll compile a list for you of employees, and we have 800 employees here, so we always get a nice list of people who are interested to train in Pilates. You may get some beginners, may get some people with more experience, but there's a pool of people to teach. You can teach the other people in your training, so that's also important. And I have to say now, with COVID this year, we're all kind of, I was going to say, a lot of the training should be in person, all right? There's some training that's 75%, 50% online. This is a physical training, all right? So really, it's the best to work with people physically and to learn manual cues and things like that. But we're all adjusting to the new normal. So when we start our training in January, we're going to be offering in-person training, all right? Spaced. We just did one last weekend. And so I recommend that if you can't come in or you don't want to come in, we do have, we're going to offer a combination of virtual training and in-person training. And hopefully during the year, we'll see how things shape up with the health situation and see if we can bring people in to come in and work on their hours. And it's a process. So it's something that you really, really do learn by doing and spending time on, just like anything else in life. And hopefully, as you learn, you want to learn more, because I hope that any teacher who continues to teach does not feel like, I know everything. There's nothing I need to learn. There's always something to learn. There are new ideas out there. We just don't want to jump on every new wagon. We want to critically evaluate the value of it. But it's always good to be open to new things and continuing to hone your skills.
I love it. I love it so much. And I have to say a quick shout out to Beth. She has pivoted so well to the virtual world. She's taken, like she said, they did the training, the MAT 3 training just last weekend, finishing up some training that had gotten cut short due to COVID-19. And the participants came in, they were masked up, they spread out throughout the studio, and they were ready for one participant to she wasn't able to come that weekend, but come into Zoom and attend the training that way. And Balanced Body has done its best to accommodate this time, which, as you'd mentioned, is not easy and not ideal, as you'd mentioned. But if it is the only choice that someone were to have, we are able to accomplish that at our club.
Absolutely.
So to finish, I mean, Beth mentioned a bit a second ago, is that we are starting our own Balanced Body Pilates training beginning this January. She had mentioned the options for modules, doing just mat or just reformer, or mat and reformer. There are so many amazing modules that Balanced Body takes you through, and myself or Beth are happy to talk you through it. If you have any questions, you may follow up by commenting on this video with any questions. I can give you my contact information. I can give you Beth's contact information. Or if this is streaming on Facebook, you happen to see it there, you're welcome to comment and private message me, and we'll get our contact information as well. And there will be information going up on proclub.com very soon as well. If you want to just take a look at the website and see what our club is all about. As you can see, Beth is actually in one of our studios. So we have 2 Pilates studios technically. We've expanded our private space into the other studio because of the spreading out.
In addition to that.
Exactly. So 3, you're right. I forgot. Go ahead.
I wanted to say, just before I forget, that once you start taking mat classes, you are welcome to take mat classes here free.
Oh, yeah.
You have to wait until the people fill up. So you would just come in and wait a few minutes and find a spot. If there is a spot, you're welcome to take the class for free. You're welcome to observe the class. I have forms that will help you learn how to observe critically. That will be very useful to you. And the same thing with reformer class. When you start doing the reformer, you're welcome to take free reformer classes, and we have quite a few. Again, first letting the paid participants come in, but we're happy to have you. And that's a good way to get some hours in, to learn, to practice with a eye watching you.
I'm so glad you mentioned that. Yeah, I almost forgot. So really our goal at Pro Club when we started hosting this training, I've loved that Beth and Deborah have been able to accomplish this together, along with our own team who has really prepared themselves as an education really team now. We know we're used to having students who are in the training coming to classes, and it's created this learning environment in our studio that I feel is something that's so powerful.
Yeah, we learn from each other. And I'm going to say this is the 5th year of our training, so we're very happy to be starting on our 5th year. And there was something else I wanted to say.
Sorry.
And what was that?
5. I didn't even realize that. That's so awesome.
5. I've been
Wow.
counting.
Yeah.
Oh, the bridge program.
Yes, yes.
Some of the big trainings have a bridge. Not all of them do. The bridge training is if you've taken training somewhere else, another country we've experienced, back in New York, anywhere, and you don't have, if it's comprehensive, that's fine. If it's a mat, they have a bridge program. So you make an application to Balanced Body and say that you want to either take the mat and reformer, or take the comprehensive. And they will give you some requirements. Generally speaking, that will be you'd have to take the movement principles, and then they'll give you 1 or 2 other modules to choose from. So you don't have to go through the whole training, and then you would just test out. There's no written for those folks, and you would do a practical. So a practical test, and then get your Balanced Body certification, and again, you can use CEUs from any certification that you like. So that's a real nice bonus for people who have started their training and stopped, or done it somewhere else and feel like they really would like to get some additional training without having to go through the whole thing.
Exactly. No, I'm so glad you mentioned that, because that's another reason why we mentioned earlier Balanced Body does approach different trainings with more of an acceptance, which is a good sign for you to see if you are looking for a training. Mention those questions, what other companies or what other education can I get that is accepted for this training?
CEUs,
And
yes.
exactly. And
Are we married for life?
Yeah, exactly. Having someone say that you're only allowed to do exactly what they say is a dangerous
It's very
place.
limiting.
Yes.
And people should be aware of it. So ask these questions when you come. If anybody wants to come and talk to me, I'd be happy to talk to you. Send me an email, and I will get back to you. With any questions, that's fine. Just to talk it through, either of us, we're glad to do it. Okay?
Yeah, because there are a lot of questions, and we are, like Beth said, questions on price, questions on hours, questions on, we know you'll have all of those, and it does kind of depend on the person, on the timing of it, and how much you're doing. And so we won't say any specific information just now, but we appreciate you being here, appreciate you watching this, whether it's real time or later. And once again, do make sure that you either like this video or subscribe to this channel so that we know that this is a content and information that you are enjoying and you're learning from. And feel free to, again, toss some questions in the comments so that we can reach out to you. And again, thank you so much, Beth, for your time today.
Thank you.
All right, we'll see you guys later. Goodbye.
Bye.